So this hive is some kind of moth inside of there. That's what I don't like about this screen. See how the screen doesn't have a hole in it? They can't get up and take care of any bugs that are in the top or...
Oh, the bees, yeah. Oh.
So
They'll clean the hives like that, huh?
yeah. So I think I'm going to remove the feeders on both of these. But normally you have a hole in the inner cover and then they can crawl up. I've never used the screened inner covers before. I've always used screen bottom boards. So it was an experiment to see how those screens worked.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take
Maybe
this.
you could cut a hole in there.
Yeah. I'm going to lift this feeder out. I might end up moving this to another hive. We'll see. I have to see how this population is because I pulled a couple nucs off of it. So they're drawing out this comb. I just put this foundation in last week.
Wow.
This one is a nicely capped one. See, that's the... I stagger.
Oh, that's
I put foundation with drawn comb, and then that encourages them to start drawing it. Like last week, this wasn't drawn at all, but they're starting to draw it at least on one side.
So Mother, you took 2 hives off of this one?
Yeah,
wow.
part of 2, I guess. Like 1.5, I guess. I'll just spray that. And that'll get the bees. Coming to clean up the sugar water on there, and while they're cleaning it up, you may start drawing it out. It's kind of a way to encourage them.
Get them to go over there.
Bees don't like drawing out foundation if they don't have to. So on this side they haven't drawn out any, but on this side that was touching the drawn comb, they started drawing it out, so I'll just flip it around.
Oh,
the other way.
To that? Oh, okay.
I'm going to draw the other side. And I'll do the same on this one. Because there's a drawn comb right here. I'll just turn it around and get them drawing the other side. Bees are very efficient, so they don't like to make comb unless they really have to. So you kind of have to encourage them a little bit. And since I removed the feeder, I know there was some brood up in this box because I had taken brood earlier and moved it up. So I'm going to check. I got to be careful on this one because I think it was maybe 8 days ago I saw some queen cells, and some of them were at the bottom, but some of them were higher up, and ones that are higher up are usually supersedure cells, but if they're at the bottom they're usually swarm cells. So there was kind of a combination, which was interesting. Some were at the bottom, some were at the top.
The cells at the top are for what?
So if they make a cell in the middle of the frame somewhere,
yeah,
and not at the bottom, that's an indicator that they're trying to replace the queen.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll start replacing her and then they stop. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that's what was happening. Swarm cells are usually around the bottom. They make
Swarm
them,
cells, okay.
yeah.
Ready
So,
to make an exit?
yeah. So in this hive a couple weeks ago I found 5 queen cells, and none of them were capped. They had larvae in them.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 of them were up in this area and 2 of them were down at the bottom. So I'm not sure if they want to swarm or if they want to replace the queen.
Oh.
Normally if they want to swarm they make more than 5. They might make 10 cells or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And normally they make them all at the bottom. So this was kind of interesting because it was a combination. So I'm not sure. I don't think they would want to swarm because they had plenty of space, but it's possible that the queen was a little crowded out because in the bottom brood chamber
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a lot of space. And see, there's emerging brood on this one. But because sometimes if the brood chamber gets really crowded,
Yeah.
even if they have additional space, it's called getting honey bound. They put honey in all the cells that you want them to have brood in, and then the queen doesn't have anywhere to lay,
Oh,
so they start feeling crowded,
yeah.
and that's when they'll swarm even if they have tons of space. So that could have been the case here because they had plenty of space and the population isn't that high because I pulled some nucs off. So
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting. I'm not sure what was happening. I put this box on a week ago. I didn't spray it with sugar water, but they haven't drawn anything on it.
When you lift it with the tool, you can tell if there's weight or empty, huh?
Yeah, and I can tell just by looking between the combs.
Yeah.
You can tell if there are a lot of bees in it.
Oh,
And if there aren't a lot of bees,
probably empty.
yeah. And you can kind of see the combs sticking out. So if you glance down the top here, maybe I'll bring the camera over to show this. You can see that there's no bees sticking their heads out through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of look at an angle, you can see the foundation still sitting there.
Oh,
It's a little hard to see with the camera, but
yeah.
I'm just going to go in here and spray all these, and we'll come back in a week and see if they're excited about it. What I might do too is I might try and stagger some drawn comb up in here. That helps them move up. I might take some brood as an example. If you put brood, they will move up to keep the brood warm. And with the temperatures now, I'm okay with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If it were in the spring when it's cold, I wouldn't want to separate one comb of brood out from the cluster
Oh, they
because
get
they may
cold.
have trouble keeping it warm enough.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the emerging brood.
Yeah.
They want it at 93 degrees.
Oh,
And with the emerging, or with the cap brood, it's especially critical. With eggs and larvae, it's not quite as critical. It's still critical, but for whatever reason, the cap brood is more important. So what this sugar water is going to do is it's going to encourage all these bees to move up into this super, because they're going to want to clean it up. So this one I'm going to stick over here because I think I'm going to want to pull some frames and move them up. you can see how full this box is. You can see all the bees sticking their heads out. And right away you can see this frame, these two frames aren't being built on. Maybe this side is, but you can see down in between there that there's nothing. And the same thing over here, you can kind of see the foundation. You can tell a lot by just looking at the top. All of these are pretty packed out. The bees are using them. I bet you this comb is drawn. This one was a fresh one that I put in, and this one is a fresh one.
We'll check. Yeah, look at those.
So we'll see, because these bees, for whatever reason, they aren't liking to draw out comb. It's kind of takes a little bit of coaxing to get them to do it. So that's why the last time I came in here, I scattered a bunch of the foundation combs in amongst the drawn combs just to get them to work on them a little bit. Like this one, they haven't touched. They don't really like touching the end combs as much as the ones in the center, so I'm not too surprised about this end one, but it would have been nice if they had started drawing on this one as an example. But I think the it could be the plasticell. You might be resistant to drawing on plasticell, but you can see they're not really too excited about drawing this comb out. And if they don't have space for laying eggs, the queen, will get crowded out, and they may start thinking about swarming. So now this looks like a frame of brood. Yep, frame of brood. I don't see any swarm cells on here, so that is good. I was kind of worried about that. But what I'm going to do here to get them to move up into this box is I'll take this frame out. And I don't know if the camera's showing this or not, but so I just took a frame of brood and I put it in a super of foundation frames, and I'm hoping that that will give them a little bit of encouragement to start building it out. I think I'll take one more, move it up. Now this one looks like they started drawing it out. This one was one that I just added, so this is freshly drawn comb. That is good news. Actually, I'm going to take this one and move it in. I'll put this one out on the end. When you stick when they have space in between their brood nest or where they're storing honey, they kind of tend to view it as not completing their job. So they tend to draw those combs a lot more. That's all pollen. Take a look at that. It's all bee bread. It's pollen mixed with honey.
The shiny stuff?
Yeah, kind of that orange type
Oh,
stuff.
the orange ones? Yeah.
Yeah. Show
Oh,
that.
that's pollen mixed with...
Pollen mixed with nectar, and they kind of take it in their mouths, and it adds some enzymes as well. And there's brood on this side.
So that kind of ferments and makes food for the...
Yep.
Food for the brood.
That's correct. And here's another one. I just added this one. So they are drawing them out. I'd like to see that. This one's all drawn, well, partially drawn. You can see they started on it. They're not quite finished, but they will finish that. So I think I'll take this one and move it up as well. Bees have been pretty nice today.
Yeah,
No
no
stings
smoke.
yet. No smoke.
Smokeless.
I only use smoke if I have to. So this one has a lot of young larvae in there, eggs.
You're down in the orange.
Yep, oh,
What's all
spoke too soon. They stung me there.
Ooh. What's all that white stuff at the top?
Oh, that's honey.
Oh, that's honey? Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of eggs on here.